All right, so today we're going to do a synchronized scripted sequence, which is what allows two actors or NPCs to synchronize their scripted sequences so they will run them at the same time. Now, it's not 100%. You'll see in this demonstration that it doesn't do it perfectly. It does have a little hiccup in it. It may vary depending on which animations you use, but the setup is really simple. And what it's used for is when we want two actors to work together to create a scene. And it requires their animations to be happening at the exact same time with a certain level of precision. Like if I were kicking somebody and I wanted the other guy to fall once he got kicked, or somebody's getting arrested. There's a lot of these interactions with the Metro Police and the citizens. So that's when most of your scripted sequences are kind of taking place in the beginning of the game. So if we look at our sequences that we've done so far, they've all been pretty standalone. We've got this guy here who waves and waits, and then this guy runs over, knocks on the door, and then stands here idle. Now if this guy were to run and have to go around something, it really wouldn't change the sequence all that much. The one guy is going to wave his arm and wait, and the other guy's going to go bang on the door and then stand idle. So while those two animations are happening at the same time, they don't require them to be perfectly synchronized, because they're separate from each other, so they're not really interacting with each other, so it's not really that big of a deal. Now these guys, what we've got here is we've got a police officer and a citizen. And what we're going to have is the police officer and the citizen are going to come over here, and the police officer is going to check the civilian or the citizen for weapons. And so the thing is, his animation of frisking the citizen needs to be here before he does that. And that's what this synchronization is about. So let's go ahead and run this real quick and kind of see what it looks like. All right, so we're going to go ahead and reload. Now you're going to see a little hiccup in the animation. What's supposed to happen is when I trigger, there's a trigger right here, the civilian is supposed to come over here, and he's supposed to go idle while waiting for the police officer. The police officer is going to approach him. Once they get together, then this citizen is going to put his hands behind his head, and the police officer is going to frisk him. You'll see the citizen kind of do one frame of the hands behind the head before he goes into his idle. I've messed with it, and the documentation all says to do what we're going to do in the lesson today. So it may vary depending on different animations, but nonetheless, the overall effect does work. So I'm going to go ahead and walk through my trigger, and you're going to see these guys assemble. So now my civilian is idling. Once the police officer gets there, he gets into the position to get checked for weapons. And then once they're done, he's free and they can run around. Now, the way this works is they're going to wait until everybody assembles. So what that means is I can take this police officer, I can move him anywhere, and I can take this guy and move him anywhere. And they are always going to wait to do their complete animations until they're both in position. That's what makes this particular lesson different than the other ones, is they will wait in their idle until everybody gets into position. So I moved these two guys. Now when I bump the trigger, they're going to go there, and he's going to do that little weird glitch, but now he goes into position and releases from the animation. All right, so let's set this up. You can use the exact same animations as me for the demonstration, so I want you to do this one, and then I want you to put together a second one, and it can really be kind of as amusing as you want. You don't have to find two that fit perfectly together like these two do. You could have one guy kicking and the other guy dancing or something. It really doesn't matter for the second part of this, but for the first part, I want you to go ahead and synchronize exactly the way I do on this one. And then for your second sample, you can pick any animations you want to run. So let's go ahead and put all the pieces in first. All right, so we're going to have two scripted sequences. So you can kind of see where I've got them placed. Make sure that the scripted sequences are not embedded in a wall or anything like that. If you do that, what will happen is the characters will not be able to reach their destination and they won't run the sequence. So make sure these things aren't touching the edge of the wall or in the wall or anything like that. Okay, so here's our scripted sequences. You can kind of look at the scripted sequences. These yellow lines generally indicate the direction that the character is going to face. I say generally because it depends on the animation, but you can kind of, play around with it. But most of the time, the yellow line is going to show you the direction that the character is going to be facing when they run the animation. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and drop in 2 scripted sequences. We'll come back and name them, so just drop them in for now. We're going to get 1 NPC citizen, and I want you to go ahead and name him Citizen Wall Search or whatever. Just make sure you don't put any spaces in the name of this. Under flags, remember when we animate these guys, we always want to uncheck the random head button, because if this changes to a female, she may not have the same animations, or vice versa. If I'm using a female, the males may not have the same animations. So make sure you uncheck random head, and we're going to go ahead and wait for script, which we'll have them waiting around. Okay, NPC citizen. I chose male 7. You can choose whichever male you want. Click apply. All right. Now we're going to add in this guy. So entity tool over here. This is going to be an NPC Metro Police. Again, I named him Police Wall Search. Flags, I'm going to have him wait for my script. Weapons, I set it to nothing. You could have pistol if you want, but it's a good idea to pistol start drawn if you're going to do that. But since he's using both of his hands, I went ahead and said no weapon. Click apply. Close that. Okay, so there's our 2 actors. Then we are also going to have our AI relationships. These will prevent the police officer from killing all of us. So we're going to go Entity Tool, Object, AI Relationship. We're going to drop 2 of these into the game. So the first one I named Wall Search Relationship. The subject is the police officer. The target is NPC Citizen. So this is going to be all citizens. That way he doesn't run around and kill anybody else on the map. So this is going to have this particular police officer. His target is NPC Citizen. This is his relationship with all citizens in the game. Disposition is neutral. Active, yes. Reciprocal, yes. The second one, you can just shift click drag if you want, or you can just use your entity tool, AI relationship, drop in a second one. We're going to use this one for the player. So I actually gave it the same name. It doesn't really matter. I can call this B if I want to. Subject again, this is the name of my police officer. The target, !player. Disposition is neutral. Start active is yes. Reciprocal, yes. All right. We'll come back to the trigger, so we'll just leave that here for now. All right, so now for these, the way I kind of try to get these set up is what I will do is I'll take my citizen and I will put him into position, and then I'll take my police officer or whatever the other actor is, and I'm going to bring him over here. So there they are. And I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to go to model, and I'm going to find the animation that I want to use. So the name of our animation today is Spread Wall Idle. Okay. So for this guy, if you go to model, So this will put him into the position so I can kind of get everything set up. So now remember, setting this on this citizen, he won't do this in the game. The scripted sequence is what makes it do it. But this is so I can kind of position him ahead of time so I can figure out what he's going to look like when he's doing this. So when I close this up, if you look at this citizen, he's got a little tiny X right there. The scripted sequence also has an X. So they're generally pretty close to each other if you're trying to get them into the right position. This will give you a good starting point if you match up their X's, okay? So I'll put them about right there. Okay? Now I'm going to do the same thing with this guy. So the animation I'm looking for on this guy is called spread wall. So I'm going to go to the police officer. I'm going to go to model, spread wall. Okay? So now you'll see he's running his animation. So now what I can do is I can grab him and again line up his X, and they should be in right about the perfect spot for this. So this is pretty much how we're going to line these up. Okay? So you can see the animation running there. This guy's getting patted down. Good. Okay? So this is how I pre-configure everything. So this is how I kind of figure out where everybody needs to be standing. This is also how I place my scripted sequences. So I've got these two guys running their animations, and then these scripted sequences, I'm going to put them right on top of them, and I'll line up these little X's. And most of the time, it's going to be right about where I need the animation. You might require a little bit of adjustment, but it's going to give you a really good starting point, so you're not adjusting things over and over and over again. Okay? And you can see these guys are pretty much spot on right where they need to be here. All right? So now we're going to go to the scripted sequences. So we'll start with the first one. So for this one, I named it Citizen Search, or Sit Search, no space. The target NPC, this is my citizen. Okay? That's this guy right here. I'm going to go ahead and give him a couple of animations here. So the pre-action idle animation is what he's going to do while he's waiting for the other guy to arrive. So the citizen is going to walk over and stand in this position. So this pre-action idle animation is what he's going to do while he's waiting. So I just chose line idle 04. The action animation is what he's going to do once the police officer gets there. So for that one, it's called spread wall idle. Loop action animation is going to be yes, and I don't need to do anything else. All these stay the same. Click apply, and that scripted sequence is good. So now I can take my citizen and I can move him wherever I want. I'm done with him. Okay. Now let's go to the police officer's sequence. Now this is the trick to making the whole thing work. The name of these two scripted sequences is the same. So the rule is, if two scripted sequences are the same, they will wait for all the actors to assemble and arrive at their locations before they will start their action animations. So these two sequences have the same name. So what's going to happen is when these two guys walk to these positions, whoever gets there first is going to wait until the other person gets there. Once they're both in position, then the script will run whatever the action animation is. Right? So for this one, I named it Sit Search, same as this one. The target NPC is the police officer. The action animation is called Spread Wall, and that's this animation right here. Move to position is walk. We just leave it just like the other one. On this one, we're going to have an output, because when the police officer's done doing his search, I want to go ahead and end the sequence. So on the police officer's scripted sequence, I'm going to click Add, On End Sequence. The target entity is Sit Search, which is both of these sequences. via this input is cancel sequence. Click apply and close it. Okay, so now I'm done with the police officer. So I can grab him and I can move him wherever I want him to go. All right, so now we've set this up so no matter where he's at, he's going to go here. This guy is going to go here. Whoever gets there first is going to wait. Because these two things have the same name, they're waiting for both people to arrive. Once they both arrive, then the sequences are going to run. When this one is finished, end sequence, when the police officer is done doing his search, it's going to cancel the sequence of everything named citizen search. So both of these are going to cancel. Okay. We've got our two guys here. They're both waiting for script, which means they're waiting for me to tell them to do something. So now the last piece of the puzzle is the trigger. All right. So we are going to take our block tool, set your texture to trigger, and then you're going to go ahead and just draw out a box. So you're going to draw out your trigger box, however, whatever shape you want, press enter. That's going to create the trigger box. You're going to select it, right click, tie to entity. Okay. Once you do the tie to entity, you're going to set it to be trigger once and click apply. I named it wall search trigger, start disabled no, and it has one output. On trigger, sit search, begin sequence. So what this will do is my player triggers this by touching it. These two guys are waiting for script, right? So they're going to be standing wherever they are. This guy is going to walk to this position. This guy is going to walk to this position. Once they both get there, the animation, the action animation is going to run. When the action animation is done, this one is going to cancel the sequence on both of them, and they're going to leave. Now, for the sequence we did today, make sure on the citizen, the front one, loop action animation is set to yes, okay? Because otherwise the civilian's going to get here, put his hands behind his neck, and then he's just going to walk away. So he needs to loop his action animation, which is going to be this position right here, okay? Our police officer, we're not looping his because he's coming over, he's searching this guy, and then he's letting him go. So loop action animation is going to be no for this guy. All right? So the main takeaway from this lesson is that if you have multiple sequences with the same name, they will not run their sequence until all the actors have walked over to wherever their purple things are at. So I can put these people anywhere on the map I want to. I can drag them around, I can change their position, I can have the police officer get there first, it doesn't really matter. Okay, I can put these guys wherever I want, and then when I compile this, as long as those two sequences have the same name, they will wait for each other. Okay, so see the police officer's here, now this guy's over here, I hit my trigger, he's going to come over here and wait. Citizen gets into position, and he gets searched. And we cancel the animation, and we're done. All right? And that is it. That is your lesson today. Make sure you look in Teams to see what else you're going to do as the second example.